Welcome back to another fun episode of Thrive Live. Today we're going to talk about stage 3 of adrenal fatigue, the exhaustion phase. So kind of to do a quick recap, stage 1 was the overstimulation phase. And in that phase, we're focused on treatment that's more calming. And we want to lower that ramped cortisol level, give some more herbal nervines, cortisol modulating herbs. Then there's stage 2, which is the overexertion phase to adrenal fatigue. And on this phase, we want to focus treatment more on supporting the stress coping mechanism. We can give some herbal anxiolytics and, of course, cortisol modulating herbs. And now we move into stage 3, which is the exhaustion phase. This is where the tolerance to stress becomes extremely low due to the lowered activity of what we call the HPA axis, which means your hypothalamus pituitary adrenal axis. And so the functioning of this axis just becomes a little bit more off kilter as our cortisol levels start to become more depleted. In Chinese medicine, we see this correlate with a lot of deficiencies in spleen and kidney qi and a blood qi deficiency as well. So in this phase, the cortisol levels start to consistently lower. You may see some lower serum cortisol levels on testing, or if you're doing the salivary cortisol levels on the functional adrenal test, you see them start to be in the lower side. And because cortisol is a natural anti-inflammatory, the persistent lowering of your innate cortisol levels is one way that overall inflammation increases during this stage 3 of the adrenal fatigue, because as that cortisol lowers, our inflammation will be allowed to go up. So this is when we start to really enter the realm of chronic fatigue. And that chronic fatigue is going to be there because of the connection with how cortisol interacts with your immune system, how cortisol interacts with your sex hormones, how it affects your sleeping, and also how it affects our brain and pain receptors. So fibromyalgia, we can see a lot of chronically sore body, achy body, inflamed body, and it's partly due to this increased inflammation that's in the body. We'll also in stage 3 start to see a weakened immune system, and that's because of the relationship between inflammation and having lower cortisol. And so this gives you kind of a loss of immune flexibility to fight infections. And when we get sick, we want to have a lot of immune flexibility, right? We want to be able to have the swing towards more of virus dominance. We want to have to fight a virus, or we want to have a swing towards fighting a bacteria. They're actually very distinct and different parts of the immune system. You can't have them all high all the time, but you want them high when you have that infection. So when we see the stage 3 exhaustion, you think of it like an exhausted immune system as well, right? There's less flexibility. We'll also see some areas of cognitive decline. So brain fog, poor mental clarity. And we'll also see some low blood pressure. Cortisol is one factor that helps maintain blood pressure, and this is why you can have high blood pressure, hypertension with acute stress, or persistent stress that has not been addressed. Now, one kind of side note theory that I've seen in some of the conferences, especially in the neurology conferences, is that chronically low blood pressure can actually be a concern for just overall cognitive brain health, because then our concern is the brain and the brain tissue actually getting sufficient oxygenation. And this is also a big reason why I think you get into Alzheimer's, dementia patients, that their oxygen levels actually make a huge deal in their cognitive abilities. So all of us that are walking around with functionally low blood pressure, I think it's still kind of one of these functional things of, okay, well, that could be playing a part into brain fog and the kind of reduced mental clarity, even during our healthier years. So back off my side tangent, back to stage 3. So in this phase, having this depleted cortisol can also be a trigger for thyroid concerns. So specifically hypothyroidism, Hashimoto's, I've seen Graves as well clinically. And it's due to the correlation of how the cortisol and the adrenal axis is affecting thyroid hormone output and thyroid conversion. And of course, the estrogen and progesterone hormonal imbalance. As that cortisol depletes, we can start to see a little bit hormonal irregularity between them. So Next week, we will be getting more into therapeutics and how we want to tonify this adrenal function to help bring you out of the fatigue hole, and how to reduce this inflammation and support that immune system to heal and recover. So I hope this was helpful, and I hope that you were able to kind of get a deeper understanding of what happens when you're in that stage 3 adrenal fatigue, and why those low levels of cortisol can be so debilitating to your energy and just how you function. So if you have any questions, just shoot them over quickly. All right, I didn't see any questions coming through. So I hope everyone has a wonderful weekend, and we will see you back next week to talk about how we're actually going to support your endocrine system and adrenals to help to rebuild and to nourish and to pull out of this deep stage 3 adrenal exhaustion. All right, have a great weekend, and we'll see you next week.